something about what we're going to paint here. Hi, this is Julie from Silver Birch Studio, and today we're going to paint this fun watercolor moonlit mountain landscape. So grab your iPad and your Apple Pencil and let's go. To start out with, there's a free watercolor paper texture canvas. There's a free watercolor paper texture canvas. This is similar to other canvases that I've given you before, except that it's a landscape. So it's 1500 pixels by 2000 pixels in this case. So the free one comes with a few painting layers. I've gone ahead and set up all of my layers here and named them so that I don't have to do that during the video. But you can name them or not as you choose, whatever is easier for you. And let me just show you. Mountains tend to be darker, closer to you, and then gradually lighten as you get further away. So we're going to use that fact in our landscape today. This is actually a photo that I've taken of the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, which is where I live. And we're going to kind of use this as an inspiration for our landscape painting. All right, to start off with, I'm using the Textured Sketcher pencil. You can use any of the native Procreate pencils. They should work just fine for this. I happen to like this one. It's the one included in the Watercolor Magic brush pack. Now we're going to use the sketching pencil to draw our mountain ranges. And we want to have just some different layers of mountains to give some interest to our landscape. I'm going to start out with the front mountain. That looks good. Now we'll go to our second range. Dip it below. I want to stagger these a bit so that there's visual interest in the finished product. So that's our second mountain. Now we'll do our back mountains. These are going to be the highest of the bunch. And again, I want to layer these quite a bit. So I think that should work. We'll try that out. Now that I've finished the sketch, I'm going to lower the opacity, bring it down to somewhere around 20%. Go up to the front mountain painting layer. I'm going to switch brushes here. Still in the Watercolor Magic brush pack, I'm going to go up to the Rough. This is not a dual color brush. This is just a single color brush. I'm going to switch to this dark blue here, the very first one. It probably looks black on your screen, but it is actually a dark blue. And for size, I'm going to do this at around 33%, and I'm going to follow the line of that first set of mountains. This is just approximate. You don't have to be exact with this. Obviously, the sketch is just a guide, so if you don't match it exactly, it's not the end of the world. Okay, front mountains are done, the darkest ones. Now we'll go with the middle mountains. Now, so that I can see better what I'm doing, I'm going to switch off that front mountain layer while I work on the middle mountain. I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to go to this third blue. And again, I'm going to follow this second set of mountains with my brush. Sort of follow along. Fill it in without lifting the brush from the screen. If you do lift your brush from the screen, don't worry about it. You can always blend it in with a blender brush. All right, now we'll turn the middle mountain off and concentrate on this back mountain layer. Now for that one, it's the furthest one away, so we'll go with the lightest blue. And once again, same size brush, nice and simple. Follow along the edge, fill it in one stroke. And let's turn them all on and see what we have. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I like the way they sort of stagger amongst each other. I'm liking that. I actually feel as though the front mountains could come down just a little bit. And the nice thing about working on separate layers is that I can do that. So I'm going to go back to the front mountain. I'm going to grab the Move tool, and I'm just going to, on Uniform, slide it down just a hair, like that. Now I can kind of see what's going on a little bit better. I'm happy with that. Now, because of the way the mountains are layered and because the watercolor paint is see-through, somewhat translucent, we have that effect where we can see the layers through. If you like that, you can skip this next part, but I happen to want to do separate layers on each of these. So I'm going to show you a different technique to do this. Normally, I do the Magic Wand, Hue, Saturation, and Brightness, Layer, and Bright. But in this case, I'm going to show you a different technique to do it. So I'm going to grab my front mountain. I'm going to turn the other two off temporarily. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to come up to my color panel. I'm going to select this white, which I've put in the middle for you there. Once the white is selected, I can click on the name of that layer, click Select, and then when the selection panel comes up, I'm going to click Color Fill. And as you can see, it's filled that layer with color. So it's not pure white because the paint wasn't pure white or wasn't fully opaque. I'm going to pinch those two together and I'm going to repeat that process. Select, and now the color fill is already selected, so it will do it automatically. And I think we'll do this one more time just to get fully opaque. Select, color fill, and now you can see that that's completely disappeared. So it's working just the way we want it to. We'll slide that beneath the mountain and we'll pinch them together. Turn that off. Now we're going to do the same with the middle mountain. Duplicate, select, color fill is already selected, so it's already done it for us. Duplicate, pinch, select, color fill is already selected, so it's done it for us. We'll do it one more time. I don't know that this is necessarily faster than the other method. It's just another way to do it. So now that that's fully whited out for us, we will move it below the middle mountain, pinch those two together, turn that off, and do the back mountain just so that we have them all done. Duplicate, select, color fill, duplicate, pinch, select, color fill, and we'll do it one more time just for good measure. And it's all set. Move it beneath the back mountain layer, pinch those two together. Now we can turn them all on. And now you can see we have them nicely separated from each other, but I will show you, I'm going to zoom in and show you one thing that does happen with any method that I've shown you, either this one or the Hue, Saturation, Brightness one. You will sometimes get a little bit of a halo around your layer. And if you don't like that, there's a pretty easy way to take care of it. So let me zoom back out again. I'm going to start with the front mountain. I'm going to select it. I'm going to switch off color fill. The first time you do this, you'll panic because you'll see that it's automatically filled it with color. Just click that again and it'll turn it off, not a worry. So now we're going to go to invert and then feather. And on feather, I think we're going to do around 5% should do the trick this time. And then click off of it, 3 fingers swipe down and click cut. Now when we zoom in, we can see most of that's gone. It looks like we need to do a little bit further. So let's repeat the process. Select, invert, feather. We'll do about 2% this time, should be enough. 3 fingers down, cut. So now those funky edges are all gone. So it looks like adding the two together, about 7% is what we need for this. It'll vary each time, the amount that you need to feather it to get the effect. Removed, select, invert, feather, go up to 7. Three fingers down and cut. And that looks pretty good. Possibly could go one step further. So let's select, invert, feather, 1%, 3 finger swipe, cut, and we should be good to go. And I can see by that my sketch layer is still visible. We won't need that anymore. I'll just go ahead and turn it off. All right, now we'll do the same thing on our back mountain. Select, invert, feather. This time we'll try 8%. Cut. All right. Now we are all set. We've got all those white halos removed. We've got our mountains delineated and defined. They're staggered. Here, once again, looking at it, I'm thinking that maybe I'd like my back mountains to be a little higher. So the advantage of working in layers, I can move it. So I'm going to take that whole thing. I'm going to slide it up just a hair. I think that's better. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now let's go down to our sky. I'm going to select this second blue and then the darkest blue. I'm going to switch brushes now. I'm going to go down to the Background and Blooms 2 brush, select that. You could use any soft brush that you wanted, or any watercolor brush that you like. This one sort of works by layering color. It starts out with a darker shade and then gets lighter, so I can layer the effect and get some variation, which I like. That looks pretty good. I think to even it out, I'm actually going to apply a Gaussian blur to this layer. So I'm coming up to the magic wand, Gaussian blur, layer. And I'm just going to raise the slider until it kind of evens out a little bit. I think I'm good with that. I like the variation which a real sky would have. So that's good. So now I'm going to come up to the stars layer. And this is where a fun new free brush comes in. So for this, we're going to select this sort of pale cream color here. It's the one next to the white. Going to go to the Birch Grove, which is where all the fun free brushes are. Links are down below to sign up for that. And I'm going to grab the Starry Night brush. Now the way this brush works, it's a scatter brush. And when we use it, I'm using it quite small at the moment at about 2–3%. And as you drag it across the screen, it will scatter stars for you in sort of random patterns. You can add as many or as few as you like. I like lots of stars, so I think that's looking pretty good. Now we'll work on our moon. The moon I've already set up as a group. I've got 2 layers in it currently. I'm going to go to the moon layer. I'm going to select two colors here because I'm going to use a DuoColor brush. So I've got that cream color, and then there's a slightly more yellow tone, so slightly richer cream or yellow tone. I'm going to go back to my Watercolor Magic brushes, and again, here you can use any watercolor brush that you like. I'm going to go with the DuoColor Rough brush. Select that one. Size I'm using it at is, let's go with around 40. And the nice thing about being on layers is I can add the moon wherever I like. So add one layer. I like a nice big full moon. You can add a crescent moon if you'd prefer. I'm going to add another layer. And I think it's still a bit too translucent. So I'm going to duplicate that and pinch those together. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to move up to this texture layer just above the moon in the group. And to do this, I'm going to use a trick called a clipping mask. And you may have used these before, or you may not. You may have been a bit intimidated by them, but they're pretty easy to use. Just click clipping mask on the side menu there. And then anything we put on this layer will only apply to the moon. It won't spread anywhere else on the canvas, which is a big advantage for what we're going to do next. So clipping mask, that texture layer. We're going to choose a different brush here. I'm going to go down to the Background and Blooms 1 brush. This is a great brush for adding texture on top of pigment that you've already put down. For this, I'm going to use it fairly smallish, around 10% I think is good. And I'm going to just add a bit around the edges there. Now this little window here will show you what we've added, and I know you can't see it yet. We're going to use another trick, another layer trick to get to see it. I'm going to click on the end there, and below the opacity is all the different blend modes. So I'm going to, instead of normal, I'm going to choose, there's a few options here. Multiply would probably work. That shows you that now pops up. Color burn, linear burn also works quite well. Multiply, linear burn, they're pretty close. Let's go with linear burn. So now I've added a little bit of texture to the moon. I'm seeing that it's still a bit translucent here. Now the advantage is, because I'm on layers, I can just go back to the moon. I'm going to go to the smudge tool, and I'm going to use the Super Soft Blender in this case. This is again in my Watercolor Magic brush pack. You can use any soft airbrush to blend. Size doesn't particularly matter too much. We're at around 30%. And I'm just going to smoosh some of the pigment over into that area where it was a bit too translucent. And here again, the advantage of layers is that I'm not affecting the texture that I put on top to give the texture to the moon. I'm only affecting the moon layer. I think that's good. It's still maybe a hair too pale, so easy to fix. I can duplicate the moon layer once again, pinch those together, and now I've got my moon the way I want it. I do think though that we can take the moon one level up. So once again, I'm going to duplicate the moon. I'm going to grab the lower layer. I'm going to come up to the magic wand, Gaussian blur, layer. I'm going to slide my pencil across the canvas until I get a nice halo around the moon that I like. That looks good. We're at 22%. And let me show you what that looks like. There's with it off and on. So you can see it adds a nice glow around the moon. I think it's a really pretty effect. So now we've got our landscape complete, but if you decided, for example, and again, the magic of layers, we've got our moon all grouped together. I think it'd be nice to move it and have it be a rising moon. So I'm going to grab it and slide it down so that it's just coming out from behind the mountains. I think that's a really pretty look. So that's where I'm going to leave it. And that is your moonlit mountain landscape. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Be sure to subscribe, like, hit the button down below. You know all the usual YouTube stuff. You know how that works. The Birch Grove, once you sign up for it, will give you access to all the free brushes, color palettes, paper textures, everything I've ever given away, not just the ones for this lesson. And be sure and stay tuned. More tutorials coming soon. Thanks so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful day.